Good afternoon. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with anyone who wore the uniform over there. I was a young man living in Arcata, California, and high school, had 4 years of college under my belt, no direction, no degree, but enough units to enlist as an E3. My dad was in the Navy at, let's see, what has he got there? He was on the Leyte Gulf at the Aiken Petroff Bay. And I grew up with him and his stories and that kind of thing. And I was in college. I had a student deferment for from August to May. I got a letter from the Army that they intended to draft me. And something in me told me, go in the Navy. Your dad did, so that's what I did. I enlisted, went to boot camp, asked for Corps school. The guy was asking, what three jobs do you want to do in the Navy? And I said, corpsman, corpsman, corpsman. He says, you're insane. But anyway, so I was enlisted, swore in, and we went to AFES, Oakland. And you went down there, we had the bus ride down and from Arcata, California, and took all your clothes off except your skivvy shorts. And you went in line at all these stations. You're going around and they're checking everything on you. How many toes, are you flat-footed or not, kind of thing. And I got to the end, and here was this man behind the table, and he had all these stacks of files, and mine was there. And he says, I'm sorry, the Navy can't take you. And I says, what? I says, why not? He says, you got married. I said, the recruiter said I could do the 120-day delayed enlistments program. I could finish my semester at college. I could get married. Well, I learned very fast that all recruiters lie. So anyway, and he jerked me around for a while, and I could have choked him. And he finally pulled out a piece of paper. But if you sign this waiver, you will take you. I had an out, a legal out, and I could not do it. I could not get on the bus and go home and look my dad in the eye and be considered a man. So I, signed the waiver, and as they say, the rest is history. So I got Corps school, boot camp, Corps school, Balboa, and we're in Balboa school, and it's these old World War II barracks buildings. You couldn't clean them if you built a new barracks. And the first class that was running our Corps school class, he was pretty heavily into drinking. And we'd get through class, and, you could scramble and clean up the barracks, and you cleaned up the barracks and get your dress blues on to go on liberty. And he would come in and take his white glove and go around, and he just arbitrarily said it was clean or it was dirty. It didn't matter whether it was clean or dirty. And I remember standing at the end of the bunk. My wife was there with me. We lived in an apartment off building, but we had to maintain a rack in the barracks. We're standing at attention, wanted to go to get off base, and this one young corpsman in the class down the other end of the barracks said, he said, it's dirty, get your dungarees on, let's go clean it. This young man spoke up, oh, but I got to get home to my wife. And I, for the first time in my life, saw faster than the speed of light. That first class was standing in front of that young man's face, nose to nose, spittle to spittle. And he said, if the Navy wanted you to have a wife, we'd have issued you one. You learn very quickly to keep your nose clean and not be too visible, not get in too much trouble. So anyway, graduated from Corps school. I got to go in the Navy as an E3 because I had enough units in college but no degree or anything. I couldn't be an officer. They were losing so many corpsmen in Vietnam that we would, year to date, I was an E4, pulled some duty at Naval Air Station Lemoore. Then I was on my way to field med school at Camp Pendleton with the Marines. And year to date, I was an E5. it happens when I got out at the end of 4 years, I had time and grade for E6. That's wartime promotion. I didn't stay in. Anyway, so I get in the plane. We're leaving March Air Force Base to fly to Okinawa to go to Vietnam. I got to Vietnam. It's midnight. It's dark out, and we land, and there's all these big booms and sounds and flashes. Artillery's going off and everything. You don't know what's going on. I think I was the last one off the plane. I was so scared. But, and then you're walking down the little stairs to get on the ground, and here's this, all these guys are walking around nonchalant. You know, and my thought was, don't you guys know there's a war going on here? There was lights everywhere, and pretty much really scared. Anyway, got in a bus and was taken over to some sandy place, brick cement block building, and nobody was there to tell us what to do, but there was a bunk, a sheet, a pillow, and you just went in there and you picked a place to sleep. You got up in the morning, and there's nobody there to check your orders, where to go. So I got dressed, got shaved, and took the little sea bag we had with us and went off, stepped out the building, and some guy says, what are you doing here? He says, well, I'm headed for the 7th Marines. And he said, you see that building over there, where the helicopter's sitting? You go over there and you just wait, and somebody will pick you up. So I got over there and I went up to the helicopter, and the guy said, where are you headed? I said, 7th Marines. He says, no, you're not in this one. The next one comes in. And I've never been, all the time in the service up to that time, everywhere you went, there was somebody to tell you where to go and what to do. So here we are. I go over there and I wait. This chopper takes off. I wait. Another one comes in, and the guy, it was old 34. And he looks out the door and he says, where are you headed? I said, 7th Marines. He says, get on. So I got on. And we're flying in this 34, and here we are over Da Nang Harbor. There's water down below us. And we're flying along, and all of a sudden there's a tremendous noise, and I swear to God, the skin of that chopper expanded about 18 inches and came back together. You know when it's Christmas and you get your child a toy, and it's got the expanded thing with the screws, nuts, bolts, dotted lines and all that? I swear, every rivet came undone and came back together. The pilot and the door gunner were laughing their ass off. They knew we were cherries. And he turned the plane so we could see. There was the New Jersey had just let go of a broadside, and we flew through the muzzle blast of that thing. I think there's only one thing that's probably more terrorizing than your introduction to whatever your experiences is to war, and that you've lived through terror, and then somebody says, fix bayonets. But anyway, I landed on the Tripoli, and it's a landing platform, helo, and we were walking across the flight deck, and you go over to the edge of the flight deck, and you walk down the ladder and go in the side of the ship, and there's a man sitting there with a little desk. He looks at your orders, and he says, go over here, go that way, go down the ladder, go all the way that way, and you go up the ladder, and you'll be at sick bay. That's where you check in. And I precisely know when I went below waterline. There's a reason I wanted to be on the ground, because at least on the ground you can think you can run. But when you're below waterline in the ship, there's nowhere to run, and you're trapped. So anyway, I got checked into sick bay, and there was they take your papers and you check in, but there was nobody to tell me what to do or anything. So just pick out a rack, you know how the Navy racks are, that kind of thing. The company, Echo Company 27, was on an operation. They weren't done yet, had to wait for them to get back to the ship. They came back, I got assigned to a platoon, and I was a replacement. And the replacement thing is, you don't know anything. You really don't. And there was no OJT. On land, everywhere you went, you had school, you had OJT, on-the-job training. Here we didn't have it. Nobody talked to me. Nobody took me under their wing. We were going to go on this operation. I just went where I was kind of somewhat told, but none of the troops would talk to me. For about 2-3 weeks, nobody'd have anything to do with me because I was, FNG. And there's just, I could get people hurt. I was ignorant. I was stupid. And I was. So we go to the bush. We land. Choppers let us off. And we pull this operation. And one of the men at Cooper's Troopers is a Fox Company Marine. And we were on the same operation, the same big firefight. First firefight, I don't know what's going on, but I hear corpsman up, corpsman up, corpsman up. Keeps happening. Thing about a corpsman is, or Army medic, bless them all, when the shit hits the fan, that's when we go to work. And you go forward. Interlocking, it doesn't matter. You go forward. To the best of your ability, you take care of the downed soldier. Patch them up, evac them, whatever you got to do. Your job is to keep them. If they can still fight and stay on the gun, you do that. If not, you got routine, priority, emergency medevac, call for the chop, get them to the LZ, call for the choppers. So I kept hearing corpsman up, corpsman up. I didn't know anything. So I'm pinned down. We're about 100 yards from the firefight, and we're pinned down with bullets going everywhere. Here comes one of the Marines in the unit, no flak jacket, no helmet, no T-shirt, walks back, and he looks down at me and says, "Hey, Doc, you okay? You got any water? I need a drink of water." So I gave him my canteen. He was going into the firefight, picking up dead and wounded and bringing them back to the LZ, not getting hit. I'm there, and a bullet, I'm laying down like this, and a bullet hits a snag right above my head in this bush. Didn't hit me, went on by. Again, scared shitless. So pretty soon I think, nobody's answered that call, corpsman up. So I get up, I go forward. You don't think you're going to step on anything. You don't think you're going to trip anything. You don't think you're going to get hit. You just, somehow you're in a cocoon or a bubble. You go forward. So I'm going forward up where they're bringing everybody back, and I get up there, and it's in the bush, and there's mortars, grenades, machine gun fires going on. Pretty soon I'm standing, there's a machine gunner right down to my left, and his ammunition guy, and he jerks me and pulls me to the ground. He's the machine gunner from my unit, and he says, "What the hell are you doing up here, Doc?" I said, heard corpsman up. He says, "You're supposed to stay in place, wait till it's over, and then you come take care of us. Now you tell me." So anyway, I turn around and go back, and who's there? The senior corpsman was a first-class guy from Pennsylvania. He jerks me and pulls me to the ground. "What the hell are you doing up there, Doc?" I said, "I heard corpsman up, but the longest time nobody answered it." He says, "You're supposed to stay where you are and wait till the firefight's over, and then we'll put you to work. Thanks for letting me know." Nobody told me anything. I was a new guy. That was the replacement new guy experience. In fact, statistically, in World War II, the replacements had about an 85% chance of getting killed or wounded. It's a very high attrition rate for replacement military personnel in combat. So until you survive the first 6 weeks and 3 months, and then they figure you're worth something. So anyway, that was my introduction to Echo 27 and the Vietnam War. Pulled 7 operations in the bush battalion. We were a battalion landing team, and we pulled 7 operations in 3.5 months, and before we got rotated off the float phase. One of our actions was, being on a battalion landing team, we had to do an amphibious landing once in the year as training. And that's, you're on the landing platform, Ogden dock. It's a landing platform dock. They have Amtraks on it. Have a big well deck, it's called, and the ships goes 18 knots forward. They lower the ramp of the well deck, and the Amtrak pulls up to the line and gets a signal like an airplane taking off from a carrier. They gun the engine, shoot off the end of the deck, and bob down in the water. Well, that was pretty scary. You couldn't convince me those things were going to float. They had holes in them. And so I was in the last Amtrak to go off. We go off the end of the deck, the driver's up there, and you're down sitting there with your gear and the other guys. And we go off the end of the well deck, and I don't know how far you bob down in the water, but you go a long way. And then you slowly come back up to the surface and you motor to the beach. Well, we bobbed down and bobbed up, and the motor died. And we didn't know what was going to happen, so you're sitting there, and you're in a tomb, essentially, a coffin, big steel coffin. And they opened a hatch, they pulled up a Higgins boat. We had to get out, get in the Higgins boat, go to the netting and climb back up on the Ogden and get in another one and do it again. So we went off a second time, and this time motor didn't die, and we motored up onto the beach like, in World War II you see and that kind of thing. There was no enemy there to machine gun us when we were getting off or anything, but it was scary enough in that thing. And there was a story I heard, about war stories, that there was a chaplain with a unit that was doing that somewhere sometime, and he did the Amtrak thing and went up in the beach, got off the Amtrak, and he was never seen from again. He went AWOL. But I don't blame you. You don't feel like there's a lot of rescue when you're in one of those things and they're going down. I had men injured. Fortunately, all my wounds were booby traps, if you will, and little frags from whatever grenades or M60s or whatever. I didn't have to treat any amputations or anything like that. I was fortunate. When that little piece of metal goes into your skin, it's hot, and it cauterizes your tissue. You don't have a lot of bleeding with some of these wounds unless you're so close to them you got massive tissue damage. I didn't have any of that. So all I had to do was, patch them up. If they get a little arteriole, the arteriole contracts when it's cut, and it clamps itself off, and it's hot, and it cauterizes, so you don't get a lot of bleeding. So I just patched the men up as best I could and determined whether they could go on fighting or if they had to be medevaced. Did that, but yeah, I did see one man die. He was from a Fox company that I know of, and he got a big piece of metal in his side, and he was all bandaged up. It was not fun watching that, but I won't get graphic for that one. But let's see. Then, I got most of my guys at the time I was there, 68, 69. The wheels had come off. We knew we weren't fighting to win. The morale was very bad. The guys were doing things. I had one guy at Dialogue Pass. We were in the rear, Dialogue Pass. He was playing with a 50 caliber tracer round and trying to separate the bullet from the brass. And the phosphorus went off and partially blew his thumb off. I patched him up. They were doing things to try to get out of the bush. They didn't want to go on an operation. We would come in, the first sergeant would have a Jeep trailer full of beer. It was warm. To this day, if I come to your house and you offer me a warm beer, I will greatly appreciate it. I do not have to have ice-cold beer. Only once did he have ice-cold beer. We came off this one operation, and I had got my 2 beers, and this other Marine and I, they turned the maintenance place where they repaired Jeeps and that kind of thing. They got everything out of the way, and they had a little stage, and they had a Oriental band, young lady and some guitarist, drummer, and that kind of thing, and they were entertaining, and went in there and sat down, and had my 2 beers, and I was able to buy 2 6-packs of beer. And I drank 14 beers. I was so dehydrated I didn't have to urinate. It's one of the best buzzes I've ever had in my life. Never forget that. But it's amazing what you learn to appreciate, kind of thing. So that was, yeah, we finished out the tour sitting in the Dilaw Pass with not much to do for the thing. To note, the hospital corps and Army medics and that were some of the most awarded of all units. I did not get wounded, did not get a Purple Heart, had cellulitis in the leg, missed an operation that I could have, should have, would have been killed on, and was fortunate for that. So anyway, yeah, it was an experience.